Good evening. Today is Tuesday, September 5th. It's about 7:30 p.m. This is a Planning and Zoning Commission general meeting. We are in Town Hall Room 119. Fantastic. Getting right into it, the first item on the agenda is amendment to coastal site plan review number 364, floodplain prevention application number 417. Oliverio, 49 Goodwives River Road, amendments to previous approved plans. We're going to pass on that, Fred?
Yes, that is going to be continued to next week.
So if anybody's here for 49 Goodwives River Road, that's going to be continued till next week. The next item on the agenda is site plan application number 309, special permit application number 42-I, land filling regrading application number 516, Parklands LLC, 3 Parklands Drive. Request for an extension of time to implement approved plans. In our packet, you don't have to say that anymore?
I think you can still say that.
All right. In my packet,
Digital record.
in the record, we got a letter dated August 10th from Jason Klein, who is an attorney over at Carmody law firm, requesting for an extension since the approved plans were submitted, and he's asked for a 1-year extension of the approved plans to November 14th, 2024. We do these things all the time.
Can you speak up a little louder?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
We do these extensions all the time. I guess it got delayed a little bit because of the approved court hearing that was settled on September 14, 2022. Any questions on this 1-year extension? What do we typically do?
Typically the commission does a 1-year extension. This one's a little unusual because the approval was appealed, and then soon after that there was settlement discussions between the parties that appealed, the plaintiffs, and the town, and the folks representing 3 Parklands. The case was settled by stipulated judgment, and that was done last year. And so the extension of time, the settlement time told the approval. So there was, at this point, it would be an extension from the date of the settlement.
So instead of the date of when was our resolution?
There was a resolution, and then there was a amended resolution. The original resolution was dated February 15, 2022.
Right. Then on the last paragraph it says it expires 1 year, which would have been February 15th, for 2 years.
Right, 2 years. It was a 2 year. Right, it was 2 years. So now it's 2 years from the court-approved settlement. Because not only do the parties have to approve, the court has to approve the settlement.
So it technically would expire on February 15, 2022, and then it gets extended to November 2022? No, I'm sorry, 2024?
It would start running again in February of 22.
No. The original approval was February 22.
Yep.
Then every time got stopped while it was running through the court system. In late October, early November last year,
Yep.
the case settled. So they're asking for additional time to
They asked
implement the
basically
approved
from a
plan.
2-year approval from November.
Right. So
you think, so right now you think it expires on November 14, 2023?
Yes.
But that's only 1 year.
right, the commission gave a 1 year. Traditionally, the commission gives applicants about a year to get started,
Okay.
not to finish a project.
But
Of
it's
course,
just
this
2 years.
project takes more than a year to finish, but usually a year to get started. So in this case, time was told until October 2022. So in theory, one could argue they have until October, late October, early November 2023, which is about 60 days away.
Great.
So what they're asking for is an extension of time to start the project,
And that's pull a building permit or a,
demolition permit,
which
which is the first
the demo permit's gonna be
demolition
first.
permit. It has to come first. So that's typical for the commission. to review and act on these administratively. They're very routine. They're very common. In fact, I think there's one on the agenda, I think was
The
one
next
right
item.
after this, the next item on the agenda. So these are pretty routine, with the understanding that, especially for larger projects, there's a lot of moving parts that builders, developers need to go through to get to a point where they're ready to demolish a building and pull a building permit.
Yeah. Questions? Comments?
Yeah, we do. Is this a public comment? Do you take public comments? No.
No, it's a general meeting item. It's not a public
Will
hearing.
you have a public comment period?
Not on the agenda tonight, no, we don't.
No, not tonight, but ever.
Oh, yes.
On this matter?
Before you take a vote?
Well, we're gonna take a vote on this one now, it's an
Well,
extension.
we'd like to talk about the extension.
It's
We
not,
would like to object to the extension.
okay, but it's not a public hearing.
Okay, well. So will the public hearing occur before
No,
the,
it's not an objectionable item, to be honest with you. We do these probably, I would say, 10 times a year.
yeah, but this was a very controversial project back in February of '22.
Right, I understand.
How many people have you come forward in February of '22 that opposed this project? You had almost half a Darien in your meetings. They were all Zoom, but,
Yeah, but it was settled in the courts
yeah.
between whoever sued each other and the neighbors, and the developer,
Yeah, I know
And the
that.
town.
and the
I
town.
know that.
Yeah. So
But why does the clock start over?
the clocks, what you're doing, what happens is it got approved, can I see it for a second? It got approved in February of '22,
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
And the courts do not force people to proceed at their own risk.
No, do you have the resolution?
It should be attached to that. Maybe not.
No, the resolution.
Hold on, here it is. Here's the stipulation, and here's the resolution.
It was November.
Yes,
November, when the parties agreed and the court
right.
has.
So, in February, after the approval, there was a time period for folks to appeal the decision.
Yep,
There were some people that did,
Yep.
and some people that didn't,
yep.
right? You would
Well,
agree?
you told, we had no standing from Silicon Woods, that's what we were told, or we were
Yeah,
five.
I don't know
I'm just telling you, that's why we're all here.
Yeah, I don't know if you have standing, that's not my business.
Well, we
but
don't own
I just
property.
want to be curious.
Yeah.
that's all.
You know that, don't you? If we don't own property, we don't have standing, do we?
So,
So, you do know.
well, so the commission and the parties, Parklands folks and the neighbors who appeal,
I understand.
agreed and settled their differences. We then went to Stamford Superior Court and showed that to a judge,
I
and
know
the
that.
judge blessed that settlement.
I understand that.
But no, wait, hold on 1 second. Chairman, this one I'm reading. It says, the permit provisions of, 858, 2009, 221, approval within 2 years of this resolution, which is February 15, 2024, right? So, because it was approved in February of 2022.
So it says 2 years to implement the project. Get
Correct,
started.
so February 2024. So then it gets punted to November 2024.
Right.
So that's right now, that's already, it's not even November 2023 yet. They already have,
So
A
arguably,
year
they
and.
still have well over a year then. So if the
there's
commission,
no need for it.
so if the commission wishes to say, we believe that you still have well over a year left to implement the project.
You're premature in asking for the extension.
Correct.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, but then there's council.
Of course.
Council wants to be heard. Let's see what Mr. Klein's asking for before we let Mr. Klein speak. Okay, our firm represents this guy.
Get up to 20% off at Casper.com or a store near you.
Sure. The rule of right to restrict 1 to November 2024, as you know.
With Magic.
All right, I want to let Jay speak.
Just enter
You already have a year. You already have 16 months to go. When do you need a year?
Well, it's a bit nuanced, the resolution does say to implement the project, it's 2 years. Typically,
Sorry,
look at
excuse me,
anything-
can I just
Oh,
get one?
yeah, I'm sorry.
One by one, your name to the record, please.
I'm Jay Klein, I'm the guy who sent the letters from Carmody Law on behalf of the owners of the Parklands site. If you look at the regs, there are different time periods implemented for special permit approvals, landfilling and regrading, site plan approvals. So to be, I would say, conservative, we typically request a 1-year extension if a project does not have a building permit
Right.
within 1 year of an approval.
Come on. Chairman, you gotta help me out here. 858, 1009, and 1028, what are those?
Those are the
Which one's which?
time periods. 858 is the landfilling and regrading. 1009 is the special permit standards, extension of time, it's expiration and renewal, and then 1029 would be similar.
That's
Where-
anything with a 10, that's on the special permit, right?
Right, 1009, which says, you know, commission may approval of special permit shall be subject to any expiration date the commission may establish as part of its decision. This shall be decided on a case-by-case basis. Extensions may be granted by the commission as applicable on written application to it, adequately setting forth the justification.
Okay. So all three of them expire in February 15, 2024. They're on their different times, you just
I
said they
think
were
it's
different
section
times?
858, 858 says 1 year. You have 1 year to complete.
No, it's all the same paragraph.
In the section 858, I think, says 1 year.
Yeah, I know, but the paragraph AAA says this permit is subject to provision of 858,
Right,
right? Not limited to implementation of approved plans within 2 years of this action, which
right.
is February 15, 2024. Because of the court hearing, it gets punted back to November 15th, right, of that year of 2022, so it punts it to November of 2024.
Right,
So
so
not even in November 2023
the
yet.
section 858 says we have 1 year to act
this
on the
overrides it.
landfill in. What's that?
But this overrides it.
Well, it cites, that sentence you read cites section 858. I mean, it's a prophylactic measure, I would say, and like I said, you know, because there's a section in the...
Jesus,
A prophylactic.
that's not good to go.
I'm out on this one.
Oh, okay.
I'm refused. But prophylactic is a comment.
In any
Is that
event...
a record, by the way?
In any event, if section 858 did not say, you know, landfilling and regradings don't expire within a year, if the site plan section didn't say it doesn't expire in a year, we wouldn't be here requesting the extension. If the commission interprets its regulations, as you're entitled to do, and says, hey, we feel that this line in the regulations supersedes section 858, then, you know, that's your purview.
It's this-
Given the, if I may, just given the sensitivity surrounding the project, perhaps a better term is, I guess, better safe than sorry. We feel it's better to just, you know, be forward-thinking and try and avoid issues that fall asleep on them.
Okay, so the bottom line is, the way I read it now is it expires on November 14, 2024. Right? They're asking for an extension to the same exact date. So it's a moot point. Right?
So if that's the interpretation of the commission, we can write a letter back to the applicant saying,
Yes, it's
Extension's
extended to
necessary.
November 14, 2024, which is what it is already.
okay, great, we'll do that. Okay,
Okay. Very good.
thanks so much, appreciate it.
So the approvals are extended to November 14, 2024, which is already in the resolution or in court hearing. Do you agree? You're going to vote on this.
Thank you. Is it extended or
It's
It's
we're not
established.
It's established.
It's de facto, based on...
Probably that's a better word, it's established. It's been established to be November 14.
As part of the resolution.
Correct.
no?
Is
Part of
that,
resolution and it's stipulated judgment. Agreed?
Yes.
Agreed. Agreed.
Mike's recusing himself.
There you go. Okay, thank you.
So,
So, the bottom line is, for anyone in the neighborhood that would like to know, in the general public, is that the approval was a 2-year approval that went to February of 2024, which is 5 months from now, right? Then the court stepped in and made it November 2024. And then the court stopped the resolution time clock, and then it restarted in November of 2022. So you had 2 years on to November 2022, you get November 2024. which is exactly what, the same exact date that Jay Klein at Carmody is asking for. So we're really not changing anything. Okay? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay.
Do you know, is this challengeable?
So you can challenge anything, court, if you want to. Do whatever you want. Good.
But does it stop, does the decision get deferred until we resolve the challenge?
I don't know, I'm not a lawyer.
Sir, if you want, I'm happy to talk to, we're happy to talk to you. It's not-
No, I'd like to talk to these people. They're the ones that are making the decision.
No, actually, and honestly, on this one, the court made the decision. So the court approved it based on the stipulated judgment that's dated October 26th, which is my mother's birthday, in 2022. So the court, it was already a 2-year approval, which is standard for a major project. And so the court stopped the clock, restarted it in November of 2022, when the judgment got settled.
Well, I hear your logic. Can I ask one question and then we'll get out of your hair?
Can you just mind just telling them?
Yes,
Jack Williams?
I wrote it down, thank you.
Great, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
right here.
Yes, I could do it, thank you very much.
Selix Woods, resident.
Oh, you live in the assisted living building?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We all,
Senior living building, not assisted living.
say whatever, you
No,
know.
it's senior.
We'll take nursing home, we'll take.
No, you won't.
It's a
My
beautiful,
wife works at Atria. No, it is.
it's a beautiful building and we enjoy living there and we'd like to keep it that way. That's
I
why we're
agree
here.
with you 100%.
Okay. Will anybody recuse themselves from this vote?
Will anybody?
Recuse?
Mr. Netter did.
Mr. Neville.
Okay. And Amy, you recused in 22, right?
No, sir.
No?
She was on the commission.
No?
There was
There
a
was
lady on
another
the
Amy?
commission.
There was a Liz.
It was
Jennifer
Okay.
Lacy.
No.
There's
Sorry,
Jennifer
I'm
Leahy.
sorry, I was.
Sorry.
Kara Gately.
It was
There's Kara
Kara
Gately and
Gately.
Jennifer Leahy
Oh,
prior.
Okay.
Kara Gately worked inside the building, so she recused herself, you're correct.
And I guess Mr. Rand retired,
Yes.
and
he's-
Mr. Netter took his position.
Correct.
Is that how it goes?
Yes.
Please state your name for the record.
Sharon Roberts.
And
Nice to meet you. Okay,
Well, yeah, I guess so.
you tried. You tried.
But thank you for listening anyway.
Anytime, sir.
I'm sure
Glad
you
to have you
don't
here.
shut us down totally.
No, I would not, that's not polite. My mother would not like that.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you anyway.
You're welcome, sir. All right, those are for you. For you.
Yeah, Peter. No, really.
Thank you, George.
Great, we're gonna move on to the next item on the agenda. Next on the agenda is flood stamp prevention application number 438, land filling and regrading application number 546, Joshua and Shari Soloway at 9 Crane Road. Request of extension of time to implement the approved plans. It looks like they sent a letter to Fred. They're looking for a 1-year extension due to current costs and financing conditions.
Yes, I spoke to, you remember builder Steve Jones, was working with the Soloways and their engineers on the project, and the commission, just a few weeks ago, right before your break, approved their project. Mr. Jones spoke to me in August and said they really need another year for a variety of reasons, not including what he's mentioned here, costs, financing conditions, etc. So they're looking for an extension of time.
So it's the same thing we just did a minute ago. A year's okay by you? Year's okay by you? Okay, okay. All in favor, 1-year extension? Fantastic.
Thank you.
Should we clear the room? Well, they're allowed to stay, but they gotta stop talking.
If you, welcome to stay as long as you want. Why?
Well, would it be rude if we leave?
No.
no, not at all.
Would you be happy if we leave?
We have wheelchairs, you know, etc. Some of us can dance.
Come back anytime.
We will.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and sorry for being such a,
No, don't worry about it, sir. You've been in this town longer than I have, I bet.
you've seen worse?
Oh,
That's what I'm saying. Just let- we'll break. Clear the room, I'm gonna seal the courtroom.
Sorry.
Take your time.
We're looking at locked down. The lock is down.
Sorry, it takes us.
Take that. Take
No,
your time.
anytime.
No, we're not home, you know what I mean?
We're glad
You
to
guys
have
are
you.
really, you got a good
Glad to have
idea.
you.
Well, they're not here. I thought they were great. You okay? Okay.
Oh, the letter. What was that? The letter.
Nice meeting you all.
Nice meeting
I'm
you.
there.
Come back in sometime.
Oh, sorry, we have it in a different tab. So if you go back to your email, so here, the letter was an attachment to the email.
This is
Yes, so if you go into Friends emails, right there, there's like a whole bunch of attachments. One of those is the letter.
That's the one.
The thing is, there's no standard. Yeah, right. They don't have standardized naming conventions for any of the files. Very difficult to find stuff.
Okay, we're gonna go on, okay. Next,
You gotta just get her square with it.
Got it.
it's just cute.
Sorry.
Hey, no problem at all, take your time. We're not in any rush. You guys come first.
Is the water channel something on?
Still recording. Thank you for your patience.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
You too.
Okay, next on the agenda, deliberations and possible decisions regarding special permit application number 60-S, site plan flood down permission application number 208C as in Charlie, Country Club of Darien, 300 Mansfield Avenue. Proposal to replace the existing pump house and irrigation system located in the southeast of the clubhouse for purpose of golf course irrigation and to perform related site activities within regulated areas. The hearing closed on July 11, 2023. I think Mrs. Bersanti is recused from this one.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
more than welcome to not move, perfect
Yeah.
where you
Okay.
are. In our packets, we have a short resolution written up as an approval as we instructed. It's pretty straightforward. I just only had one minor question, and it's going to come up in another one. On page 5, under required verifications, permits, and as-built, do we need a flood elevation certificate?
I believe we do. I believe that's a requirement from FEMA is on,
Yeah. That comes up on the next one, too. It's asking for an as-built survey by a surveyor, certificate of landscape architect, and then it stops. So I think you need that FEMA thing, and when they ask you, you don't get caught.
Yeah, you're right, Steve, we can add that. You
So it's
can
letter G.
certainly add that to the approval.
Yeah, it's just item G number 3, right?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else with questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors?
On the very first page, the very top of it, application number, special permit 60-S, site plan, application blah, blah, 208-B as in boy, should be a C.
oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
This guy, he's an analyst.
Extra
Big
credit.
difference between a C and a B, or what big difference between an A and a double A.
Hey,
Extra credit.
I found that would be the only thing I noticed of note.
Mrs. Barsanti's out. Anything you guys good? Okay. With that said, I would entertain a motion to approve as edited. Adam makes a motion, Mike makes a second, all those in favor?
4-0, 1
4-0. Yep, fantastic. Moving right along. Next item on the agenda, coastal site plan review number 374, Flintstone prevention application number 79A is an Apple land filling and regrading application number 549, Mark and Stasha Cohen at 114 Mile River Road. Proposal to raise the existing residence on the site, construct a new 5-bedroom single-family dwelling, construct retaining walls, terrace areas, a pool and cabana, perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including the regrading of the property and installation of a stormwater management system. This is the new house that's going to be supposedly the first FEMA-compliant house to be built on 5 Mile River Road. It was presented by Amy Zavatakis, and Craig Flaherty spoke a lot, but we only have Patrick.
Amy had only sent out the notices, so I determined I did not need to repeat.
Yeah, I remember that, but she wasn't the original applicant.
Patrick Schur, in the application paperwork, did a lot of the legwork.
Right.
Had his name on the application.
Right.
And Mr. Flaherty spoke at the hearing. I think Mr. Schur may have spoken briefly at the hearing. I can't remember, but he did a lot of the legwork on this one. So he's been our contact.
Yeah, and then Amy was just, she was just there for...
Tangentially involved through the mailings to the neighbors.
So this one was the house where the neighbor next door wasn't super happy. That comes up on page 5, number 30, where it talks about Mr. Attorney Robert Baslin. We went over the whole thing at nauseum during the site plan application. Everything was fine to me. They're not touching the barn. Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this one? Are we okay? Adam, you're okay? George, you're okay? Thank you, okay. With that said, all those in favor, looking for motion to approve as submitted. Amy makes a motion with the first second. Adam makes a second. All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Good job, Fred. Next item on the agenda is land filling and regrading application number 553 PL-23-96. Dan and Andrea, wow, I can't remember, Pezley at 23 Greenleaf Avenue, proposed to raise the existing residence and construct a new 6-bedroom single-family dwelling, construction of new driveways and parking court, patio and porch areas, and a pool, and to perform related site development activities, including regrading the property, installation of stormwater management. This is that big house that's off of we're top of Hill Road, up in that section off of, what the heck is the street that goes on? No, I was thinking, no.
Christie Hill?
Christie Hill Road.
Yeah.
It's a really big piece of property with 4 acres of land. It's zoned R1. We determined that everybody else determined that it's really not subdividable. So this gentleman, or this family, or these people are building a big house, which is, I don't know, it's like 10,000 square feet or something like that. But a lot includes the pool house that's connected. That's what it's called, the house. We did speak a lot with the neighbors regarding flooding downstream. Do we address that specifically here at all?
Paragraphs 4 and 5 on page 2.
Okay.
And then conditions E and F on pages 3 and 4.
And G2.
Yeah, you're right.
There you go. That was make sure. And what, are we doing like self-certifying on this one too? Because of all the road, if it's...
Yeah. So in this case, what they'll have to do is have their engineer provide an as-built of the project describing that the drainage was installed either consistent with the plan or whatever changes are made out in the field. And then they'll also need an as-built survey, which is in condition G.
Is this also, that we also need a flood elevation certification too on this one?
I don't think this one was in the flood zone.
That's correct. It is not in the flood zone. We typically require elevation certificates for properties that are located within the flood zone. This is outside.
It's all wetlands, right?
Yeah, there's some wetlands in the back there. There is reference to the EPC approval here. They had similar conditions of approval. Theirs were more related to the landscaping and wetlands enhancement plantings that were required by UPC.
Where, refresh my memory on, I recall that there was a drain in this street that connects to the Hollow Tree Ridge Road drain. Was there discussions about how that, never mind those, the Coltex are close to the house with the Greenleaf drain is attached to the Hollow Tree Ridge Road drain, but because there's that access out to Hollow Tree, not all the way out to Bump Along.
Yeah, I remember that, because that's where the town steps in.
Yeah, a permit for the new connection to the sanitary sewer line, Park Road. Just want to make sure we caught that.
You may recall, yes, Brian Muller from Muller Engineering presented the application.
Yep.
We do show Coltec units close to the house.
He did a great job there.
They didn't really show too much running down the driveways in terms of drainage connections or anything like that. I don't see anything. Remember this one? There's a level spreader that goes out that way, but not down to Hollow Tree and not down to Buffalo.
That's what the neighbors were concerned about.
Right.
Because the guy the engineers did a great job, but the neighbors were concerned about the overloading that one's town public hookup.
Which would be in Hollow Tree.
Right.
For them, it's
It's
long
way down
distance.
the road. I mean,
Yeah,
they're on top of the hill.
Yeah, they won't show any work in that area. They just show a little.
It is E, Amy, is what you're talking about.
It's E, yeah.
For Madison River, impacts neighbors in Greenleaf Road or Hollow Tree Ridge Road. This shall not,
Water connection.
this shall be not limited to sediment prevention and controls. That's really just during construction period though, right?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any work going out to either Greenleaf or Hollow Tree,
Which is way too
other than
far.
the driveways.
Yeah. I mean, Hollow Tree is a quarter mile away. Okay.
They were connecting to public water,
Yeah.
and
Were they-
perhaps that's what we're recalling is the connection to
Sewer and water.
sewer and water
Coming across
through.
Hollow Tree.
Well, that's in there. Permit from Darien Sewer Services required for connection to new sanitary line.
Yeah, that
So
went out
they're
through
gonna-
Greenleaf though.
I think that's here.
Yeah.
Because that could be the.
But those guys will review the plans. Fair enough. Ask the find coming over and review the plans.
And there was that discussion over, that the pipes were blocked for 30 to 50 years, and that was why the drainage was exacerbated in these heavy rains, and part of their work was going to be scoping that, I thought.
Didn't they, is this the one where they did clean it out and then all of a sudden the flooding moved downstream?
I thought that was Brookside
No,
Road.
that was the school.
Yeah,
That was Henry School.
that's in the back,
They finally cleaned the dirty pipe and then all of a sudden,
shut down the other end.
which is what it's supposed to be. Okay. Do we think we covered it or you want to add something just to think?
I'm usually better with my notes, and it's not as complete, so if you are all confident in it, and that we captured it, I must be looking at it.
No, I mean, I think you're right, but I think that when it comes to the next paragraph, the permit from the Darien Sewer Service are required for any new connections.
It shows the proposed sewer lateral connection going down to, I'll call it Bump Along Road,
Yep.
to the south. Proposed, this plan, site development plan, sheet 1, shows the sewer lateral connecting from the new house down to Bump Along. Going down to Hollow Tree, I think that's the water connection down here, because it's shown in blue on this plan. So you see, that's the water line there, with the sewer connection here.
Under the basement slab, there was
Right.
drainage under the slab.
Under the driveway.
I had also under the slab drainage.
Under the slab of what?
Because the basement was above the water table. And then he was saying, I have in my notes, he basically is putting in that under slab drainage that basically is like you're building a house inside of a swimming pool that captures all the drainage and runs under the house and out.
Right, because
Yeah.
that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's a spring that runs through here.
Yeah.
Right,
So
high groundwater.
you're basically building a house inside of a swimming
Yeah.
pool.
Love their basements.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it means, we knew the engineer did a good job, right? And then Candace signed off on it, and they still have to go to
EPC approved it.
EPC approved it.
They did, back in June.
Really good, too.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right.
Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this one? Anybody got anything?
No.
Okay. With that said, entertain a motion to approve as submitted. Adam makes the motion. Mike makes the second. All in favor? 5-0. Okay. Moving right along. Next on the agenda, coastal site plan review number 378 PL-23-109. Thomas and Kathleen Arrix at 138 Goodwives River Road. Proposal to construct additions to the northern portions of the existing residence, construct a replacement in-ground pool, retaining walls and terrace areas, and a golf cabana, and perform related site development activities within the regulated area, including the modification of the existing stormwater management system. Public hearing closed on July 25th, 2023. What happened with the cabana on this one? That one got pulled out?
No, it didn't get pulled out. I spoke to Harry, and I think it's kind of phase 2 of the project. I think they're first and foremost going to get the pool done.
Right.
That, of course, has, I'll call it seasonal ramifications, that they got to get, everyone's desire is to get the pool up and running by Memorial Day. The golf cabana, Mr. Eric said, not as important, not as time sensitive in terms of when they finish it. So it is likely that they're really going to be 2 separate projects.
Okay.
But the pool's the much bigger project, and I think the part they're going to do first.
And the drainage, I watched the video, the drainage was designed for both.
Yes,
Scope
that's
of the
correct.
entirety of the scope.
Yeah, I do remember the three.
Yeah.
The cabana lands up being, the pool, the golf thing lands up being on the site plan, but they may not pull a construction plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So in our packet, we got a draft resolution dated today. Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this one? It's another short and sweet one. And again, this is a 2-year approval, which allowed the project to be completed in phases, which is exactly what Jeremy just said. So this one goes to September 5th, 2025. Okay, with that said, I didn't see anything in here that jumped off the page at me. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Mike makes a motion. George, want to get in the game?
Sure.
George makes a second. All those in favor?
Pass the ball around.
5-0. And the cost of sports are called touches. What touches you get?
That's right.
Okay.
All right, 5-0. Okay, next item on the agenda. Land Filling Regrading Application number 554 PL-23-107. Bruce and Diana Phelps at 35 Swifts Lane. Proposal to raise the existing residence and construct a new single-family dwelling. Construction of the new driveway, retaining walls, terrace patio areas, and perform related site development activities, including regrading the property, installation of stormwater management. Public hearing closed on July 25th, 2023. Again, we got a draft resolution, our agenda dated today. Doug DeVester was the engineer that submitted this one. He came out of retirement, is what I called it, he just said retirement. It's a good job. Pretty straightforward. This was a pretty short hearing when we went through it. Swift's Lane's off of, near Water Lane?
That's correct.
Right. It's way back on
Rings End Road. Thanks,
The Rings End Road,
Just
yeah.
look at that.
And then it overlooks, I think, the water at the bottom. You're looking east. Questions, comments, typos, script, there's errors on this one. Again, we gave this guy a 1-year approval for this one. It may be extended for special permits. Pretty clean again.
Yeah, this is, they added the stormwater maintenance plan because they aren't exactly going into Goodwives River Road. There is somebody between them and the Goodwives River. So they added that. They wanted to be exempt from that, but then they did in fact do it.
That's right, yeah, they did ask for an extension and then they talked to them. Okay, look for a motion to approve as submitted. Amy makes the motion. Looking for a second. George makes the second. All in favor? 5-0. Fantastic. Okay. Next item on the agenda, deliberations only on the following item. Proposed amendments to Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 3-2023, PL-23 number 108, put forth by St. John's Roman Catholic Church. Proposal to amend section 405G of the Darien Zoning Regulations to add the word mausoleum as an accessory use requiring special permit in addition to the already permitted columbarium use located on church grounds or on the grounds of a cemetery operated by Cemetery Association and defined in section 119A-296 of the Connecticut General Statutes. The full text of the proposed zoning regulation amendment is on file and available in the Town Clerk's office and the Planning Zoning Office for inspection online at darienct.viewpointcloud.com as PL-23-109. The public hearing closed on July 25th, 2023. Before we get too deep into the weeds on this one, and they're only adding like 3 words to the text change. On that, in that cemetery, there's mausoleums all over the place. There's 4 box mausoleums and 2 box mausoleums. They're all over the place. I mean, I drive by there every other day. So mausoleums are allowed in town.
Well, just because they're there doesn't necessarily mean they were allowed.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
They'd like
And I think
I didn't look at the dates on them, so that's.
Oh, I bet they're old then.
Yeah. But certainly, what's unique about Darien is cemeteries are not a permitted use. As you know, cemeteries have been around in Darien as long as Darien's been around, well over 200 years.
Right.
And there's lots of cemeteries in town, some of which are marked, townhomes. There's a variety of different types, and some are very small. This is, I believe, the largest in town.
This sort of what's it called, Spring Grove?
Spring Grove, right over there is also one of the larger ones. And you're correct, there are smaller, what I would call similar, but to the extent that they want to build a very large building relative to the buildings that are there. They wanted to change the regulations to specifically allow mausoleums. And you may recall at the hearing, the attorney on behalf of the applicants spoke about how there are changing times and changing beliefs and traditions. And he said, look, and the fact that the cemetery's been around so long, it's pretty full.
Yeah.
So,
Full.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it because I think they're already there. You're only adding 3 words to something that, what didn't Bruce Hill or Mike Murray propose it way back when over at Spring Grove?
I believe one of those attorneys handled it within the past 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2019 actually.
And they built a mausoleum there.
They did.
So, I don't know how.
They built a mausoleum or columbarium?
They constructed a columbarium at Spring
Oh, is
Grove,
that
not a
not a
mausoleum.
Yeah, that's
Those are pretty big boxes.
different.
Okay.
Well, one's ashes, one's bodies.
I understand,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
and as far as the size of what ultimately, I mean, I watched it on Vimeo, and I
Okay.
know, I can certainly understand the sensitivity of the neighbors not wanting large structures there, visually and traffic, and my concern is the flooding that happens on the backside of the river there will limit their ability to where they can develop. I think it's going to have to be closer to the streets. I know any application is going to come forward, so I know what we're dealing with now is just a text amendment, but
It's the means to the end. You're allowed in the means to the end, but again, you can say, you can change the regulations, so we get kind of a 5-story building in town, but someone proposes a 5-story building, they can get shut down. We're not approving anything.
Well, what are the restrictions that would apply if we made this change to the?
It would be then allowed by special permit.
Right.
So what is logical and likely is the applicant would come back with an application for a site plan,
Right.
yep.
special permit,
Right.
and if it's in the flood zone, permit to work in the flood zone. If there's a lot of regrading, they would need a regrading permit.
But it's subject to all the height restrictions,
Right,
bulk area requirements, all that sort of stuff.
What overrides if it's?
So this text amendment will give no as of right.
That's
Right.
correct.
Okay.
So it would have to comply with the zone in which it's in, which is a residential zone. So it would be no bigger than a house
So
in terms of height.
the residential zone's bulk requirements
Would apply.
So it's 2.5 stories, 30 feet.
That's correct.
But if
But
we
there's
make
no
this,
lot lines, there's no setback requirements.
There would still be whatever setback for the zone it's in. So in fact, they had originally gone to the Zoning Board of Appeals
yeah,
for a setback because they wanted to put it too close to Camp Avenue. And eventually that got withdrawn by the applicant because there were concerns that it was too close to Camp Avenue. So
Was there also a height issue too?
I think there was some concern about height and number of stories, but if they don't go to the ZBA, it has to comply with the district in which it's in, which I believe is R130.
so look, can I ask a question, a hypothetical? We make this text amendment change, and it's a large piece of property, and there's only setbacks for R30 is very limited, whatever, it's 30 in the front, 15 on the sides, and they clearly aren't going to build more than 20% of their property, and it's not going to be higher than 2.5 stories, and it's a 10,000 square foot footprint. Would that meets all the boxes?
It meets the boxes for the zoning, however, the commission looks at the
It's
special
still
permit
special
standard.
permit, it would still have to
Section
come.
1005, still appearing before the commission.
Got it, okay.
It's got to determine that the location and size of use, the nature and intensity of the
Got it.
operations shall be such that it shall be in harmony with the development of the district. Location, nature, size, and height of buildings, walls, and fences, and the nature, extent of landscaping screening shall not hinder or discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land.
Okay.
So you got to make all
And
positive
that would
findings.
all trigger also the ability for the public to weigh in and comment. That's my biggest concern, is that when a plan comes forward, the neighbors have the ability to
Correct.
have their
State
voices heard.
statutes require a public
Okay.
hearing on special
Okay.
permits. The issue here is the only people that will be notified with a letter will be those who own property within 100 feet. While they'll be noticed 2 times in the paper, it's a big property that runs
Yep,
along
enough
Point Street.
people will get out.
There were a handful of folks at the hearing on the zoning,
Yeah,
so.
Everybody on Lynn Court would get notified.
yep.
On that street, like from Charlie Howe's up north of the
Yeah.
road. This is my other question, it's kind of sort of related. That site is flat at certain spots, high in other spots, and way low in other spots, right? It's, I don't know, how many acres? I think it's like 26 acres or something like that. This site now where the existing mechanical garage where they keep the tractors is down in the hole, right? So it can't be, 30 feet above the average grade.
Correct. If you put it on a sloping piece of the property, you measure the average grade around the building. So while the higher point of the building might be closer to Camp Avenue, it might slope down to where the existing driveway is from, I'll call it the Hoyt Street entrance. We would look at the average of the building to make sure it complies with 30 feet
That's
maximum.
But you look at the average of the whole,
No,
of the whole?
Just around the building.
just around the building.
He takes points around the building.
He's not gonna walk 10 acres to the west and say, oh, well, it's 15 feet lower in elevation
No, it's
here,
just-
that's the middle mark.
Right, exactly.
It's gotta be right around the building.
So I mean,
right?
so it's, because then it can be, you know, a lot higher.
Yeah, no.
So you may have a situation where you have a at grade coming out closest to camp, and then I'll call it the maintenance building might be at grade for the rest of the property, the lower level. You know, it's easier to get lawnmowers and other equipment, trucks in and out at the lower level, but maybe there's a way that they do the driveway or access at the higher level.
So what I would rather not see is it 28 feet high on one side and 42 feet high on the other side. Because camp average is not higher.
We would be certainly confirming the height of the building and setbacks and other standards are met as part of any application.
Then you have the intensity of use and all that stuff.
Right, the provisions of, that's up to the commission. Your role is to look at section 1005 based on the evidence you hear at public hearing.
Because, I mean, there's no application on the table. I didn't see the thing on ZBA. I know my father-in-law saw it because he watched it on TV and told me about it at dinner. But, and then in the public hearing, this lawyer said that the building was gonna be like 20,000 feet or some huge number. We tried to figure out how many, you know, are they called bodies? How many bodies you put in there? It was like 200.
Remains.
Yeah.
Caskets.
That's pretty intense. Okay. So at the end of the day, they're asking to add 3 words to the resolution that we changed. It says columbarium and mausoleums all over the place. That's the only real change. And my point at the beginning is there's already mausoleums there. I don't know when they were installed or built, but they don't, you know, they don't look 100 years old.
No, they
So,
don't.
what do I do? You say yes?
I just want to make sure, I'm fine so long as future public input.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only.
That's fine.
This isn't an application for
Yep.
one, this is
Yep.
to, they have to come
And
back
then
to
I'm
us.
fine with the
100%.
three-word text change.
We went over that a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Meeting.
George,
All set?
right?
I just worry, I think, Amy, you and I are sharing the same dread, which is, you know, a 30-foot high stack of bodies. I'm wondering if well, Jeremy, can we put restrictions as far as height? I mean, it wasn't asked for in the text amendment, so are we technically stuck with approve or deny? I guess we can approve with conditions, and one of the conditions could be like not over a story.
I would do that. I'd do that in a heartbeat,
Yeah,
because
I think-
I would rather have, instead of having the residential R1 bulk requirements there, I would put an additional set of bulk requirements in there that are more stringent. Maybe a 20-foot high building. Because you're saying that you're building in a quote-unquote an industrial building in a residential zone. And now it sets back to the residential, you know, lot lines. If the building faces Camp Avenue, the rear property line is like, you know, 200 yards. You
I don't
know,
think
and the
we
side
have-
property lines are
Yeah.
200 yards.
I don't think today, I think I would be prepared to say what would be the logical additional restrictions on this, having just thought of it and queried it and batted the ball around just
Right.
today.
Yep.
So I wouldn't want to propose additional restrictions.
What
I think what some of us are saying is that we are not comfortable with the idea of large-scale mausoleums in that location or anywhere. For me personally, I just don't think would be well received by the residents.
But the word I would add is at the end, say, you know, subject to height requirements. But we don't know what that height is yet. Maybe we might decide it should be 10 feet, we may decide it can be 29 feet.
In a special permit review, as just read to us, one of the issues we get to review is the size.
Yeah.
And if we think that the normal
Yeah.
household or house size is too big, we can
Yeah.
say so.
We can say so at their
At
future
that time.
application.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't think we should go any further.
But that's an appealable.
That's subject to interpretation.
If you make the regulation
intent?
a story and a half, they can't appeal that.
Correct.
Any additional modifications to the regulations would require that the commission renotice those changes and a public hearing would need to be held on those changes.
So we can,
So that was my question.
we can,
So
we can do our
we
own.
can't really just approve it with stipulations,
No.
because it would have to be renoticed. So we can approve or deny what's in front of us.
But don't we add
That's
words
my
all the
belief.
time? Don't we add words all the time to text changes?
I think there's a difference between changing some wording versus changing,
All new
Substantial.
restrictions.
Yeah.
basically putting in,
Yeah.
right. So even though,
Regulations.
See, I'm not saying, what Mike's suggestion, which I agree with, you could say instead of being 2.5 stories, it's 1.5 stories.
Yeah, but
Right.
I think what staff's telling us is that is a substantive change to the
That's
regulations.
a zoning regulation change, almost.
And it's
you know.
not been noticed, there's been no hearing on it,
Yeah.
and so we
Yeah.
can't really,
We can't say subject to height restrictions.
I don't think so.
No.
So we can either deny it and give them advice to come back and do something that's got more substance to it. Because it, literally, you've said this 3 times now, or 4 times, it's only 2 words.
Right.
So that's not a great text amendment in my mind.
No. I would do, I would deny it.
Adding subject to height restrictions is stating what it already is the case. It is already subject to height restrictions.
Right,
Well,
which
it's-
is 2.5 stories and 30 feet.
Yes. Now, you didn't say you want to go on to say 1.5 stories.
And 10 feet.
Right. And you don't want to do that right now, do you?
Well, no, it's actually.
Then why bother saying anything different?
so one option, of course, is if the commission's inclined to approve it, and then when Fred and I write the letter to the applicant, we can say, the commission approved the zone change, it goes into effect in 2 weeks, whatever. We're going to draft a resolution as well. So this is not voting tonight, this is a resolution. So in the resolution, the commission can say, during deliberations, the commission, and even at the hearing, there was concern by the neighbors about height. The commission also is concerned about height. Any future application should be sensitive to the bulk and height of the building,
Yep.
because while, just what you said, Steve, on a residential property, you might own 1/3 of an acre or 1/2 an acre, which means your 20% coverage de facto limits the building. In this case, the property is so big,
Yeah.
the building is almost, I dare say, limitless in terms of size. It's just a matter of, and I want to be crass, how many bodies do you wish to move?
Correct.
So certainly, we can draft a resolution for next week, which reflects the majority of the commission saying, whatever you discussed tonight, as long as we know which way the majority is going, we can say, well, the commission's approving it.
Because a lot of times when we get these zoning changes for a specific property, for a specific site, you get a draft site plan. You know, and this is what we're gonna land up building. Either they show you the cards and say, this is what we're gonna do, so if you change Corbin District, this is what we're gonna build there.
Well, Parklands was an example.
We just did it over on Sedgwick.
Here's a
Right, we got the
slightly
zoning
more
change and we got the
question.
site plan.
Correct, you got the zoning change in the site plan, same
Yeah.
exact
So
concept.
we knew exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you calculate coverage for a grave? Is it gravestone coverage?
Well, I mean,
Well, there's buildings on there, when you.
Yeah, I know there's buildings.
Building right there with the doors.
But do the graves and the gravestones count towards
Right.
coverage?
That's like your slate patio in your backyard.
The patio's on grave, but the,
Right. Arguably, Mike's question is, if you have a giant rock
right,
on your property, we wouldn't count the rock.
right,
So is a headstone
right. It's not a
a
natural
structure,
feature.
right? Is it more like a rock, or is it more like cement? In either case, I don't think they're close, because they still have the river that runs through the property.
Right.
Railroad tracks.
The railroad.
Not
That's-
to
I'm
mention
just trying
all
to
of
get
the
to
existing graves.
to the question of what does 20% look like on that site?
Yeah.
Like if we're counting, you know,
And also be aware that they don't have, it's not a blank piece of paper. They
Correct.
have many graves,
correct,
existing
I don't
graves.
want to think about that part of it.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to ignore that,
Yeah.
and it's not going to happen,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's the,
I think
Basis of
the
poltergeist.
intent is clearly, I'm not comfortable with a large scale, multiple large scale, multiple medium scale. It's just not,
Because at that one
I just
spot,
don't, yeah.
but that one spot that's across from the Springdale Florist, that piece of land is huge.
Yeah, that's
The
a big
existing-
open spot.
There's a building where it's got front doors, a little dicky office, and behind it, it's a big maintenance building. That's way down the hole.
Yes.
So what about if you deny it and then tell them to come back with the height restriction?
Guess you could do that as well.
If the applicant becomes aware of the commission's concerns, they may choose to voluntarily withdraw the application altogether and then come back and resubmit to the commission.
I would
they
prefer,
could-
I would prefer to have that outcome.
With some modifications.
Right? You agree with that?
I would,
You agree with that?
Yeah, I'm fine. I mean, I think the special permit gets us there. I'm trying to limit the number of appeals we have.
Right, but to me, it's, you know.
So once we put something in writing and say, hey, you can't build over 1.5 stories,
Correct.
we don't run the risk of being appealed.
Correct.
And that just, appeals waste money and,
Correct.
town resources, your guys' resources, right? So
That's, I agree with 100%.
that's my sensitivity.
Because the word that you just said, we get another bite at the apple, it says intensity of use and bulk and all that, but, is 199 bodies, is that intense and 200's not, where's the line?
And keep in mind, this would apply to the entire town of Darien.
Correct.
Not just this property.
Correct.
So while today we're discussing
Yeah.
this property, it could be Spring Grove next, it could be,
It could
I
be,
think we need more meat on this bone. I personally-
it could be another cemetery that's been dormant for years, or something, oh, we got it.
So should we have staff go back to the applicant and see if they want to withdraw and resubmit?
Yeah.
okay.
What do you say,
George?
I think that's foolish. I think, it takes a lot of effort for them to get this far. We have the special permit issues that we will be able to ensure are satisfactory to us, and they will get the word. They may be watching tonight or whatever else. They're going to know they've got to be careful. But I don't think we really understand exactly what we're saying. How high is a story and a half? What is that? And is that with a peaked roof or some other kind of roof or whatever else? I think they have given us a perfectly reasonable modification to the zoning regs. I think the mausoleum should be permitted. This would allow that. And what kind of mausoleum, we'll figure out when we get an application under the special permit rules.
Okay. So how does this guys wrap it up?
Well, I think, don't you need to call for a,
We don't need to,
No,
we can keep deliberating for another week or two, right?
Yeah.
We don't have
And
to
in the meantime, you guys can go back to the
You can
applicant and
just-
see if they want to do.
test the waters, then we can discuss it again.
We can put this
Right,
up for
there's
next
no-
week. The decision deadline is,
Some time, right?
hearing closed July 25th, so we have till like September 30th.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Great.
There you go. Procrastinate. Problem solved.
There you go.
Just like.
All right. Kick the kid out of the road.
In honor of school starting.
Next on the agenda, discussion of blade signs. This has been a bugaboo of some people's for a long time, and I don't know why, but in our packets, we got an 8-page picturesque thing of
Very
a whole bunch of
detailed.
blade signs.
Yes.
And I know that the architecture review board is very much concerned with this.
Yes, when the sign regulations were redone a few years ago, a number of signs were distinguished, called out in terms of maximums. The maximum size for a blade sign was established at 7 square feet in a pedestrian-oriented zone, such as downtown or Federal Realty in Roten Heights, and 12 square feet in an automobile-oriented zone, such as eastern end of town. So the ARB has seen a number of applications for 6 and 7 square feet, and as you can see by the photos that Fred put together, they usually don't approve 6 or 7 square feet. They usually approve much less, but they asked the commission to think about whether to keep the 7 square foot maximum or to lower it down to 6 or 5. I think the biggest blade sign we have now in town is the one next to Sipster's. Sipster's is 5.28, And WIM, which is on the, I think the 5th or 6th page, is 8 square feet. And you can see it a little bit in the Sipster sign. So Sipster's in the middle of downtown, and WIM are two of the larger ones.
Let me get that, hold on a second.
That's on page 1, 2,
Third from last.
3.
So you're saying that like, the ones at Goodwives, those things are 2 square feet?
Yes. Yes. So if you look at Federal Realty on page 1,
Yep.
those are anywhere from 3 to 4.5 square feet. Both of me is a little small at 2 square feet.
Walgreens.
Walgreens 5.61.
That doesn't really bug me at all. I've seen it.
That's 4. And again, Goodwives are a little different because they're under that overhang.
Right.
It's a little different, not as visible.
CKC Salon, that's where the old
Those settings.
Chinese food place
Yeah.
used to be.
Yep.
Chin's Table or something.
Darien Running Company downtown on Brook Street. Blue Mercury's on Post Road. Boudoir's on Grove Street in the back. Sipsters and WIM, as I said, are middle of downtown. Espresso Neat is in Grove Street Plaza.
Well, I didn't get a picture of them.
No,
I didn't either.
It
It's
should
in
be
the back.
Sipsters.
It's behind Sipsters.
Okay.
In the back.
It's hard to compare them though. They could be 3 square feet larger than Sipsters. Doesn't look that way to me.
Yeah. You may have to pull it up in Google Maps or something like that. But
And they want us to lower this?
yeah, right now the maximum is 7. And they want the commission to think about lowering it to 6 or 5, 5.5.
I mean, to be honest, why are we worried about this?
It was a request of the Architectural Review Board.
I like the bigger ones.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with Nero is fine, that's 6. Have they ever gotten one that's 8 square feet or 7.2?
Yeah, a lot of proposals are between 6 and 7, and they try to squeeze them down a little bit.
So they want us to just give them more muscle?
Yeah. We're gonna, that's the thing, if it's at 7 and these things are tiny now, if we lower it, they're gonna be even smaller at some point. They're gonna be like a little sheet of paper and that's gonna be it. They're gonna be essentially useless.
I guess the question I have,
Well, we are the ones with the regulations that do establish a lot of dimensions. They're all throughout, so it's not unreasonable. They should think we established these dimensions too, but what they
No,
should.
I mean, we had Glenn Chalder go through this for 6 months. And he's the one that wrote it, and he took signs of all over the state and all over the country and went on and on and on. I mean, I remember way back when the big argument was the Stop and Shop sign at Goodwives Shopping Center, because you couldn't, not Goodwives, at Narone Heights, because you couldn't see it from the road.
Right.
And it was, up close it's 4 feet tall, but from Heights Road, it's, 6 inches tall.
Right, and that's what brought on these new standards, which is one in pedestrian-oriented zones, like downtown or Norton Heights, versus an automobile-related, that you're driving by, say, TD Bank, Bertucci's, Darien Car Wash.
I mean, when's BMW gonna come up with their new sign? They're definitely gonna let them have a new sign on Lake Road. Has that
I've
ever
not heard of
been?
anything for BMW.
And then who measured these? Did you measure these Warby Parker for about 4?
No, what we did, we took what was approved by the commission, or the Architecture Review Board, rather. We went through the minutes, went through the applications, and said, oh, I see, they got, Le Boudoir requested a 2-foot by 1-foot sign. And that's what got approved, so you just do a little math.
I
Seems like a waste of time.
What's the proposal on the table? What do they want us to do?
I think they want the commission to reconsider whether 7 is too much, and to consider lowering it to a lesser number, 6, or a number between 5 and 6. So certainly if you want to spend, another week or so and drive around and look at Whim and Sipsters versus, say, Cafe Nero or others in downtown, where you say, oh, I see, whether it blends in, too big. The ones on Corbin Drive, if you look at the ones David just put in, are a little smaller than
They're
that.
small.
Tiny.
They're small.
Can't see them at all.
They're hard to see.
They're
The
small.
one for Weemondine is, for whatever reason, very hard to see.
They're small.
The Darien Running Company is cool, but see, if they're, if those ones are small, they're allowed to be twice the size that they are. Either someone squeezed them down, or maybe it's 8 square feet. I've never seen it. But women should not have gotten approved.
It was done before their.
It might have been done before the reg change.
Yeah.
Women just came in.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now.
No, it's been a while.
We did the rate change with Glenn Trolder for years. We even paid him a dime, and
I'll check on it.
I don't know who we speak.
he was the guy that we did the town plans conservation.
Uh,
That was done in 2016,
Yeah, before
and
my
then he did the sign regulations and the zoning regulations the next year after that,
Yeah.
which
you're
was
right.
17 and 18.
Yeah.
So either WIM got in, they stuck themselves in.
Okay, we'll take a
I
look.
wonder if that's an error, because just walking around, taking a look at some of the signs, I didn't notice
That it seemed
I
that
agree.
out of
I
scale.
don't
that it's so much bigger than the Sipster sign. It just,
Right.
That might be an error.
It's gotta be in there.
Yeah.
it very well could be.
And La Boudoir is only at 1.333 square feet. I mean, the one I think is nice is Darien Running Company, right? That's 500 square feet, and I don't have any real problem with Walgreens, but again, Walgreens is set way back on the road, and that's 5.6. So if you want to lower it to 6, I don't think it changes anything.
It's somewhat difficult to tell the perspective of some of these signs just by looking at these photographs. You really have to sort of go out, walk around a little bit, make note of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, and nothing jumped
Yeah.
off the page.
When I was walking around town, the signs in the range of 4.5, 5.5 seem to be the right,
Pleasing to the eye.
the pleasing to the eye, kind of the right size, the right scale. That's sort of what stood out to me.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I mean, the guy that puts the signs in, if he doesn't want his sign at WIM to be twice the size of the other one, the sign proposal guy's gonna say, he's gonna stick it like a sore thumb. But then, but how do you get into the difference between what's vehicular neighborhood and what's a?
It's based on zoning district.
Okay.
So downtown would be all one zoning district, pedestrian oriented. So that would, right now is a 7 square foot restriction. That's why the signs you're looking at are all either downtown or Norton Heights.
Okay. Because the only example is the one that's Darien Running Company, when you're walking down the post road, you have to look down the street, the side street to see it. And that's why technically it could be a little bit bigger, but if you didn't look to see it, if it was a 1x1 sign, you wouldn't see it. If it's a 5 foot sign, it makes sense.
Right, that's why the ones on Corbin, which Amy and Adam referred to, seem a little small.
A little small. Yeah.
I mean, the cabana people, the clothing one,
Yeah. They just
You
seem
can
a
even
little
barely
small.
see that one.
Yeah.
It's like the size of the phone.
sale to cabana, yeah, 2x2.5. I mean, the thing that would interest me, we gotta move on, is did they come in with a 5 square foot one and then Airbnb knocked them down?
I'll check.
2x2?
Yeah.
Is that, to me, that's another reach. All right, we're moving on, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're on to anything. We'll talk about it. All right, next on the agenda, approval of minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes to rip through real quick. First one is May 30th, 2023. These ones are kind of short and sweet. Questions, comments, typos, scribblers, errors on these guys? No others? Okay. We talked about the house on Nearwater Lane, that Raymond Street with the guy with his roof deck. And the mandatory referral of Green Island. I guess you fixed the typo, I mean, something in here. Lease in which not be coupled with tenants right through the trails as well as apartments above. Okay? That's the edit that's on page 5, right, Fred? It's in red?
That's correct. That was the second time the referral report came back to the commission, and we redlined that to point out the change.
Okay, so this is.
That was suggested by town council.
Got it, okay. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. George makes the motion, Adam makes the second, all in favor? I have nothing. You guys did that. Next item on the agenda, approval of minutes from June 27, 2023. The house on Crane, in here, was a public hearing and general meeting. Questions, comments, typos on this one from anybody? No, not yet. Mansfield Avenue, the 5 Mile River, and then I think we have a resolution in this one, which we can't change. Yep, for the resolution on Grove Street Plaza, which we can't change anyway. And then, is this the one? Oh, that's this seating thing. Another resolution from, well, Nick Point, we can't change that anyway. Deliberations and approval of minutes. Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. Amy make the motion.
Yep.
Adam makes the second. All in favor?
Yep.
Got nothing. Next item.
George, you watched the video on that?
Which one, the last one, on the
June
27th?
27th, yeah, I don't have you down as,
I was not present, I did.
Okay, good.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sure.
Yep,
Oh gosh.
yeah, that's familiar to me.
excellent, thank you.
The next we have Avani, Riley, everybody, except for Jeff Wall. Okay, continue with public hearing for Country Club of Darien, 300 Mansfield area, in the left of
Greenleaf,
Which one, 7-1?
Yeah, 7-Eleven.
the one we just approved, this
Yep.
way we were introduced to that.
We had the people with the sushi place on Tokenique Road, Beach Drive. Questions, comments, typos, scribblers, errors on this one. Then we have a resolution in the back, which was from Sedgwick, which is long and lengthy, and a second resolution from, that's Long Neck Point. There's another one, we can't change those two. Another resolution from Road Avenue, that's the store, so we can build a nice furniture, we buy a building. A resolution from Tokenique Trail, it's a nice house. Okay, look for, and then in the back we have more discussions and approval of minutes.
That's good to me.
Amy makes a motion for approval for a second, Mike makes a second, all in favor? Nothing. One more set of minutes, July 25th, 2023.
I did watch this, Jeremy.
Got it, thanks, Amy.
You did watch this one?
Yep.
Yep, this was your birthday, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Maybe turned 30.
Year old.
The year old. There you go. This again was the Roman Catholic Church, that hearing, Arrix, Swift's Lane, and a resolution, we can't change that. Did deliberations for Great Island, stuff like that. Questions, comments, typos, scribblers, errors on this one? Adam says no, Amy Watson on tape says no. Mike says Mike makes the approval. Mike making a motion to approve as submitted. Looking for a second. George makes a second. His hand's moving.
Yep.
All in favor?
Yep.
Fantastic. All right. Next item, the chairman's report. The only couple things I want to say is I think it's really, maybe it's more for staff. I just want you guys to make sure you keep your eyes on what's going on in Norwalk. I don't know how many feet it is that they've noticed us, but the Doubletree Hotel just traded for $5 million or $4 million. That thing's already wrapped in demo stuff. They're gonna knock it down.
We just got notice that it's going to become part of Costco.
Oh, really? Okay. So then you also have, the Walmart is definitely changing to Target.
Correct.
That's a done deal. Wegmans is definitely taking over MBI. Walmart's looking for new homes is my understanding.
Wegmans is taking over MBI?
Yeah,
Demolition underway?
they already,
Yeah,
you gotta get the construction fencing up.
Yeah. So that whole, and then we also have Bartucci's, which is still in play.
Yep.
That make end of the woods. I don't think anything's gonna change with Land Rover, that old car dealership, which is next to Bartucci's. I just want people to know that, I mean, I get stuck on the post road all the time, and that end of town is gonna get crushed. There's nothing we can really do about it, but,
I'm totally changing gears about, I don't know if it's under the chairman's report conversation, but I do think we might need to start thinking about these electric scooters and these electric bikes. I'm seeing a lot more of them just making up their own rules. And I'm really concerned about I know it's more of a public safety issue, but I can imagine it might come up toward what rules are going to be in certain highly trafficked areas.
They are.
That are residential or commercial downtown areas.
I think New York City is trying to make electric bikes underneath the umbrella of scooters and mopeds.
Like where are they going to be stored? Where, what kind of traffic patterns in our new downtown developments that we've, I just see it becoming more of an issue.
Let me ask the question another way. You know those things, you go to certain places, you can rent like a Lime, which is like a city bike, it says Lime.
Yeah.
If Lime Company wants to come to Darien, and they need docking stations, do we approve those things? Well, I mean, I don't think those scooters, when you go to college campus, they're just lying on the corner.
Those aren't electric. They're just regular
No, they're
bicycles.
electric. They're all over Yonkers. I was there, they're just lying on the ground.
Motors on?
The issue is the moment they put it on a sidewalk, sidewalks are usually town property,
Yeah.
so they would need town approval to do something like that.
So Lime can the Board of Selectmen just give Lime the franchise for Darien if we don't see it?
They could, just like in the old days, newspaper boxes used to be placed
Yep.
on sidewalks, and then the town said, nope, now we have an ordinance, nope, you need a permit for a newspaper box.
Okay. So maybe it's.
So
more of a-
really, it's between the selectmen
selectmen.
and police.
Okay.
So we don't
Just
see it.
so that I'm just noticing it as a regular citizen. We need to start paying attention.
Yep.
Somebody's gonna get really hurt.
The other thing is, the other thing I want to just mention is the city of Norwalk residents are making a big stink about going against the multifamily regulations going all over Norwalk. There's some neighborhood groups, but I think there's more in East Norwalk that are offended by it. So in terms of our town, and I'm not saying we're offended or not offended by it, but the blanket provisions of the state saying that they're going to, just rezone the areas. We're not the only town that's sending letters to testify against it. And there's certain, elected officials that listen to us, and some elected officials don't listen to us, but that's what elections are for, I guess. Then the other item is, the two items is the appeal period for 7 Citric passed. So that was not appealed in any way, shape, or form. Because you can't appeal a zone change.
You can appeal a zone change, but the standard is quite different. The appeal standard for a zone change is relative to consistency with the town plan. The standard for an appeal of, say, a special permit is more the commission's opinion on whether it complies. So what folks say is it's usually easier to win an appeal of a special permit because there's so much evidence, right? Versus a zone change. Hey, is it compliant with the town plan, consistent with the town plan, or not? It's usually a little more black and white versus a big gray area for a
This is
special
what he was talking about with,
Mike was talking about.
with columbariums and whatnot.
Right. So, yeah, that's correct. There was no appeal taken of.
Okay. And then Great Island did get appealed.
That's correct.
The horses stables over at Great Island got appealed. I mean, I know I think that either one or both got sent to me. I did not read them cover to cover because I was busy reading all this other stuff on my iPad. But those are the two big things. There's nothing else on that front that's changed, right? Something else out there being appealed.
No new appeals have
What's
come in.
going on with 77 Leroy? That got punted?
It's still kicking around in the courts. So
That is-
certainly I can have town council come for an executive session anytime you want, give you an update on the various, I think we're in the middle of 5 or 6 different cases right now.
Yeah, all right, we'll think about that, but after Thanksgiving, the time gets weird to maybe have those guys come in. That's really pretty much it. What I want to do is do an update and run through all the developments for next meeting on what's going on, because Federal's pretty much done, Corbin's is going, phase 2, most of their buildings are knocked down, if not all, and then they're digging holes over at Palmer's.
Making progress over there.
Yeah, there's no concrete being poured. The issue that they had in the back is that the hardest thing of that whole project is that wall in the back to protect the houses from West Avenue from falling into I-95. That's what's there. Director's report, Jeremy, anything special?
No, nothing. It's a very light agenda this week. Next week as well should be fairly light. And we got very few new applications, so it's only likely we'll see 3 minor public hearings for September 26th. So fingers crossed.
What's on the agenda for September 12th?
September 12th, we have 2 public hearings. One regarding Weed Beach, and the other is for a new tenant at what was You Break I Fix next to Trader Joe's.
Is it a controversial tenant?
I don't think it's controversial. I think it's a
spa. It's a spa.
That's what we need. We definitely need more of those too.
Down by off of Tokenique Road, maybe? All the way going into Rowan. We built the house right next to the Woodbridge liquor store, and there was a Jennifer's Kitchen that
went out
got
of
closed.
business.
There's all kinds of new stuff in there, but they didn't come to us.
They're opening as is. The health department is supervising the interior tenant fit out. But as far as I know, there are no changes to the exterior other than a likely sign. And it's a grandfathered restaurant space. Oh geez, George, there's been 20, 30 different restaurants in there through the years.
Well,
You called out of that one.
I don't know, but it's been a couple of delis, I'm sure of that,
Yeah. So I don't know anything about the menu at this point.
Right, but it's going to be another deli type of place?
Deli/restaurant.
Yeah, because I saw it closed, then I saw it boarded up. I was talking to the liquor store owner a couple days ago, and he's like, yeah, they started doing work on it already. I was like,
Yeah. The health department, they got a building permit for the interior fit up, and the health department's.
It's a pretty small place. I mean, it sounds like you can fit
there's not much.
one table, so that's like a place that.
Use to use doesn't change, like when Brooks Brothers went
Yeah.
out as a men's store and the bridal shop was in as a ladies store, there was no, we don't see that.
Didn't we see the bridal shop go in the Brooks Brothers space when they moved off of front of the exit?
Yeah,
We
really.
heard something about it, because they thought there was going to be an office on the second floor, but I don't know. But we didn't have that on.
What else? Then eventually we'll see something in the old Pasta Vita.
That's correct. That went out of business a few months ago, and I've not heard. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I've heard some rumblings of people going in there, but nothing getting real traction.
What about the Colangelo building? What's going on there?
Colangelo, well, that's the other thing, going back to just update, and I'll try to get more, is the, where the Montessori school went in, that building's still for sale, and then the building next door, which is the old Italian deli, that thing's for sale. We told those a long time ago, you should combine the two and have parking there. And then the Colangelo building, you're correct, that thing's overgrown,
It's nice.
and they haven't done anything to
Someone was
it.
on the blight committee.
Well,
Someone's on a bike committee,
Might consider writing a letter.
we might do it, but I
The Blake
bet the
Committee
first
just
thing we
changed
hear
the rules
is,
for commercial
hey, we want to
properties
cut the
to be
lawn.
asphalt.
No, this is environmentally friendly, Philip Lawn Grow.
That's true, that was don't cut in May,
Yeah,
let it grow in May or something like that.
they cut it, they did the same thing last year. They cut it about once or twice.
I've not heard, I heard it was on the market for sale, but the price was astronomical.
I bet. It's a beautiful building.
Yeah, but people have come to us about a tear down. There's a lot of wetlands in the back. You know, there's a few other very important pieces of property in town on the market for sale. We'll talk about that in the meeting. Okay. Reed Beach should be really cool. Isn't that the whole big project? Has anybody seen that yet?
Yeah, it's a
I mean, has the other commission board seen the rig? I'm,
What's EPC, got EPC approval, right?
It was approved by the EPC several years ago. They withdrew the application that was submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm gonna say 3 years ago.
was that
now.
that was this sailing building?
Not the sailing building, it's the far end of the park, south of the sewer treatment plant, between the water and the sewer treatment plant, abutting near water.
And abutting the Roten Yacht Club, no, Roten Beach Club.
Correct. So it's a proposal to clear that area to a large degree, put in a new walking path, sort of a natural amphitheater area, expand the size of the beach in that area.
Double the size of the beach. Has there been a public
A
hearing on that at all?
passive recreational area is essentially what they're proposing to do.
Does anybody else have a public hearing on that? Or are they the only
No, it looks like it will probably not need to go back before the EPC. The prior approval still applies. So Planning and Zoning Commission approval would be the final step for them.
Did Parks and Rec have a public hearing on that?
To my knowledge, no.
So I'm just
To
trying
my
to see if
knowledge,
the
no, but we'll
And
double
that's
check
coming before
on it.
us next week, or at the end of it?
next week.
It is scheduled for a public hearing next week. We have received comments on the application from Rick Talamelli of our office, who is our EPC staff person, who has a number of concerns regarding drainage and some other potential coastal impacts as a result of that proposal. So we're going to have to take a closer look at that.
Who's their engineer? Like Redis Mead or?
It's Dan Biggs of
Weston and Sampson.
Weston and Sampson, thank you.
Okay. They specialize, did they do the park?
They did the Wheat Beach Park when it was redone
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Okay. All right, that's good, right? With that said, looking for a motion to adjourn? You gotta be Mike makes that motion.
See that one for him.
Amy makes a second, all in favor?
Yep.
Thank you. Hearing's closed. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you, TV.